have a story. And while I'm talking, I'm going to be talking to you about your thoughts. And the little papers that I'm creating are your thoughts and or my thoughts or whomever's thoughts. And so this is just origami paper. And I was walking this morning and I was inspired to have this conversation with you from a video I watched on origami. And I really like this one guy on, his name is Joe. I want to make sure I say it correctly. Joe Nakashima. So, or Shama. Joe Nakashima. If you're looking for origami, that's the place to go. But anyway, so he created this thing called a butterfly box, and I'll get to that in a minute. So what I'm creating are these little butterflies. And I want you to think of each of these that I'm making as I go along as your thoughts. Okay? So here you go. Origami butterfly, which is really a thought. Okay. So there's all these really pretty papers, little citrus. So now let's get into it. I have a story for you. Forgive me if I'm trying to read it because I don't have it memorized. I just came up with it this morning. So there once was a woman who was an artisan and very adept in the art of origami. And among her myriad of creations, the most profound was the thought box. It was a fragile edifice constructed from paper origami butterflies. And each butterfly, delicate as a breeze and as vibrant as a dawn, symbolized a thought and a fragment of the woman's perceived identity. Now, with patience and precision, she would fold these butterflies, imbuing each with a piece of her soul, and meticulously piece them together in a box. When her thoughts were serene and orderly, the butterflies would fit together beautifully, like a melody, forming a box of her exquisite harmony. Yet not all of her thoughts were so compliant. Some were unwieldy, maybe torn, born from the discord of doubts and fears, challenging the very shape she intended for her thought box. Now, these unruly thoughts, like errant butterflies, threatened the box's delicate balance. Now, over time, the woman came to realize that many of the butterflies in her box were not of her own making. They were impressions and beliefs instilled by others, by the culture she was a part of, and by the world at large. Now, these external thoughts were the most difficult to incorporate, behaving like untamed butterflies, resistance to being folded into her narrative. And despite the turmoil, though, the woman believed this box to be her refuge. It means to navigate the chaos of existence. What she didn't perceive, however, was that the box was so lovingly crafted, had become her cage, a confinement built from the very thoughts that defined her. Then, unexpectedly, a pivotal shift shattered her life's calm, right? This event was so potent that it caused her thought box to fracture. And the structure she had so painstakingly built, piece by piece, could no longer contain the force of this new raw insight. And so the thought box burst apart. And freed from the constraint, All the butterflies soared into the air, a whirlwind of freedom, color everywhere. The woman watched, initially in shock and then in revelation, as the walls she had erected crumbled. In this moment of clarity, she realized that the thoughts she had believed to be her essence were merely visitors passing through. With the disintegration of the thought box, the woman experienced an unprecedented sense of liberation. She saw, perhaps for the first time, that her true self was the observer of the spectacle, the one watching the thoughts dissipate into the ether. She understood that she could engage with her thoughts, or she could just simply let them drift by. In this moment, she saw for the first time that her true self was the observer of the spectacle, the one watching the thoughts dissipate, right? And from that moment on, the woman no longer sought to capture her thoughts within the box. She allowed them to flow freely, formless and unrestrained, delighting in the beauty of their nature. In doing so, she discovered her true being, a presence far beyond the confines of the thought box she had once so diligently constructed. This realization brought her to the part of living, to a place of peace where thoughts come and go, but the essence of who she truly is remains untouched, observing it all with gentle detachment. Now, I literally created all these little butterflies. There were 12 of them that made the thought box that I just destroyed in 1 second. And they're all over now. They're literally hanging out. And the reason that I thought about this was I had watched the origami video and how he created this beautiful little delicate box. And I thought, that's a lot like our thoughts, right? We craft them, we take care of them, we identify with them, and we build this cage around us with all these different thoughts. And I had thought originally about doing this as a room, right? And cluttered with lots of furniture, and people would have to dismantle the furniture and pull it out and let the sunlight come in, and suddenly the house would just kind of evaporate. And maybe I'll draw that. But I really wanted to illustrate for you the fragility of the thoughts and the structures, and why we get so anxious when anything that either we think about, perceive in the future, or something in the past, or someone tells us something that doesn't jive with our beliefs or our thought box, and it starts to crack it, and we get really defensive. And just like that, our thought box can literally fall apart, and there goes our identity with it. But I really want to point out in this story is that there's a more important part of you that we all have, and that's the observer of the thought box, the creator of the true essence of who we are, and that our mind can create these things called thoughts. And these are just forms, just like your body, like anything else. They come and go. You literally you're not defined by them. But once you observe that and you become present in this new understanding, you will see a new peace. You'll have more joy, more ability to deal with life circumstances. It doesn't mean life suddenly gets easy, but it does say that life doesn't have to be suffering. And because we can choose to suffer or choose not to, by not identifying with the emotions and the thoughts that we so desperately hang on to, because who would we be without them, right? Who are we without our past or our story? Or what are we going to do if we don't worry about the future? Oh my goodness. Well, I'm here to tell you it's a lot less stressful way of living. And once you see that, it's quite powerful for you. And things might just start getting a little bit easier in your life. You might start seeing coincidences and serendipity things happen. You're like, wow, that's awesome. How did that happen? But yeah, so there's the thought box. And since I'm on my origami kick, I wanted to share with you, as always, I want to say thank you for spending time with me. And so I'm going to be sending you Peace and love and joy going your way. It's my little heart. Also by the gentleman I mentioned earlier, and this one. And thank you as always for spending time with me today. And I hope you found that insightful, because I know I was surely excited to share it today, and I'm going to reconstruct the thought box, but just as a piece to look and observe and enjoy, not to get confined by. So I hope you guys enjoyed that too. And yeah, so there's that. I hope you have a beautiful weekend, everyone, and I'll see you next time.